As far as your choices in like film and what you get to do, I mean, obviously, like with Silicone, your time is kind of around the show timing, but like, how do you get to decide what type of things, scripts come along that kind of pique your interest and you can do this and do that? Like, I know a couple of years ago you did Amira and Sam, which is a really good feature film.
Thank
How do you
you.
get to choose kind of what's outside of the Silicone, geosphere?
I guess we all choose from what's in front of us, and I tend to be inspired by the people behind something, even if I'm not, if I don't feel connected to it right away. Amira and Sam is a good example. I think at first I was unsure, and sitting down with Sean Mullen and talking to him, I fell in love with the story more and more through seeing it through his eyes. So I don't know. I don't know how I choose things. I tend to focus on a few things: overall appreciation and wanting to be a part of telling the story that I'm reading, and being scared by some aspect of it, being unsure that I'm capable of or currently know how to pull off some part of it. That's exciting. So I tend to look for things that scare me a little bit and things that inspire me a little bit. And components play a part too. Sometimes it's just the opportunity to work with somebody that I'm a fan of that I don't know yet. And even more to that point, I love having the opportunities to work with people I've worked with before who I love and respect and appreciate. It's really great to be able to work with your friends.
Is there more chance for you then to jump like TV compared to film, or do you like going back and forth between the mediums?
I love them both. They're very different mediums. I mean, having just gotten off the next Spider-Man movie, it isn't what I would have expected working on a movie of that size to be, of that scope. Having the opportunity to work with a director with that kind of vision and awareness twice, he also directed the first movie. Mm-hmm. So to be able to work with him twice and have that familiarity is very fun for me, and it allows me more trust in the process and in the way that he'll bring everything together. So I get to play a lot more and take more risks, and we have so much available time and resources to make a movie like that to be able to improvise and have fun the way that I like to do is very unique, I think, especially in that world.
Do you get to dive into the theater world? I mean, do you ever look in deciding maybe I could jump into a play here or there?
I've never done theater. That's something that I'm very uncertain about. So I don't know. I feel like my voice would carry, but
I definitely think it would, yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I would want to be in good hands going into something like that, and I don't think I could handle the bigger stages. I think, a lot of the theaters that I've been to in Los Angeles in particular, and like smaller town theaters, that's probably where I would feel most comfortable. Something that doesn't seat any more than 75 or 100 people. But that's just me feeling comfortable in a smaller arena and not having the pressure of forcing my voice to carry that far. I also feel like that's a restrictive aspect of theater for me because I wasn't trained in it. I went to a theater high school in Los Angeles, but I only went there for half a year, and so I didn't even get full training for that year, which puts me at a disadvantage for sure coming into theater, which is a very different medium.
I'm kind of curious. You've gotten to do some really interesting shows like Yo Gabba Gabba.
Oh, yeah.
Mainly because I think the Freaks and Geeks legacy kind of carries on, where like people are a fan of that, or Party Down or anything like that.
Yeah.
Has it been kind of crazy, the roles that have kind of sparked out of just what you've done in the past? Like, I feel like Yo Gabba Gabba, like where'd that come from type thing?
Just that. People being a fan of, Justin, who produced it, I've just become friends with, and he was a fan of Freaks and Geeks, and so he invited us all to go on and do something. And when he asked me, I told them that I wanted to do a rap on it, and then they did that. So it all ends up being, fun when you're working with good people who like to experiment and play around. It's always fun, and that was no different. Even though it's a kids show, being able to just say, "I'd love to come on and do it. Do you think we could do a rap?" And then they're excited and game to find a way to make that work. Is really fun.
I know your first album was a Tupac album. So you've loved rap for a long time.
I did.
Do you listen to rap now, or do you have any artists that you like now? I think in an article you said you're a big Leon Bridges fan. And we're from Dallas, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we love him too.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I love him. I love Alabama Shakes. I love what's his name in the Night Sweats.
The big guy.
Why did I forget his name? But I remember his band's name. But I have, I think, fallen away from contemporary rap or hip hop in general. I do think there's valuable things happening in that arena, but I think my heart is just in stuff that was happening in the early mid-90s and maybe into the early 2000s.
Do you have a favorite top 5 rappers of all time or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit controversial, I suppose, just that question in general. But Tupac, I would say, is probably top of the list. Yeah, it's hard too because I think Doggy Style is like one of the best hip hop albums. But then you look at Tupac, who had so many amazing albums.
Just before we turned on, you talked about a drive from Kansas City to Michigan. What's the wildest or longest drive you've ever had to do?
I've driven cross country. You say had to do?
Or just for fun, yeah.
I was forced to drive for how many hours? I've driven from Los Angeles to Montreal. I've driven when my dad and I moved to Florida when I was 15, and so we made that drive. I've driven cross country a number of times, so that's the farthest I think you could drive in the continental United States, coast to coast.
Yeah.
Unless I drove all the way down through, Central America.
Which would be kind of cool. You should do motorbiking
Yeah,
here.
can you? There's there's a bridge over where the ships get through, right? In Central America. So I guess you could drive all the way down to South America. That would be crazy.
What? Wow, L.A. to Montreal. I never would have guessed that as a.
Oh yeah.
That must have been wild.
It's fun.
As far as, like, I know people always bring up like Party Down, whether it be a movie or another TV show. So I don't want to ask that because you've asked that so many times, but I'm curious, who was your favorite guest person on that show? Because that was the thing I loved about it, is like every episode was someone brand new.
Yeah, I mean, if I had one regret in life, I guess it's not a regret because I didn't do anything to cause it, but that was one of the more difficult cancellations that I've been a part of. I guess that and Freaks and Geeks were only the 2 real big ones. I did a show called NTSF SDSUV, and that wasn't canceled as much as Paul Scheer had a child, and with June, who's on the show as well. So that kind of slowed down the production for a bit, and I think they just decided to hold off on a season to get back into to get into that lifestyle, I guess. I don't. What was the question?
Who have you enjoyed working off of in
I
guest
think
roles?
Steven Weber was one of my favorites.
From Wings?
Yeah, he was on. He did an episode of Party Down, and he played like a Russian mob boss, and he was so good on the show. I think Party Down was where we had kind of incredible. Every episode had incredible guest stars. There wasn't one episode that didn't have some pretty awesome people that we got to work with. But I also started off pretty strong with we had Ben Stiller on Freaks and Geeks. We had great guest stars on that show as well. I think that was more. I mean, the show was great and was warranted. It was warranted to have great people come on and be a part of the show for sure. But I think part of that was Judd pulling all the stops to try and keep us on the air, because NBC, it'd be harder for a network to acknowledge, or it seemed hard for them to acknowledge the value in the show, and so Judd was trying to force them to be aware of it by saying, look at all these amazing people who are willing to come on and be a part of the show. I've gotten to work with a lot of great people. I don't know that. I know I just picked Steven Weber out of the group, but in general, I don't know that I can really pick one that tops them all.
What's it mean to you to come to a festival like Tallgrass? I mean, as far as before we were talking, your mom's from this area. Well, not this area, but from Kansas. Mm-hmm. It's got to be kind of special to kind of give back to the Kansas community to some extent.
Yes.
And I guess kind of to wrap up, I know we're about to do a big Q&A. What do you do in your free time? Do you read certain books? Do you how do you pass the time? How does Martin Starr, does he watch certain shows? What are you watching or reading right now?
Currently wasting too much time on Instagram, but I'm trying to watch more movies because I plan to direct.
Wow. Is that coming down soon, directing?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it and wanted to for a long time, and so I'm just reaching the point where I realize that I have to do it if I'm going to do it, that I've taken too long just saying it, and it's time for action. So I think I'm going to direct a short film in the next 6 months and get it done.
Wow.
We have quite a break on Silicon Valley, so we don't go back for our 6th season until June of next year. So I'm going to take advantage of that and make sure I break out of my comfort zone and do something I've been saying I'll do for a while.
Well, I think that's a perfect way to end it. Thank you, Martin. That was really cool. I appreciate talking with you.
Likewise. Thank you.